Thank you, Helmut. Indeed, I am here to talk about, law and, regulatory issues that normally are boring and, that don't excite the public. But, but I think more interesting part, of why I'm here, it is, I believe what you said, that, I am here to transfer, as much as possible and as I can, a bit the perspective of the member states, of the 28 member states. So basically, we are talking about evidence, how much evidence do we need? Actually, the question about evidence versus early access, we realize that it is as old as the EU legislation on pharmaceuticals. To address these issues, into the regulatory system, there are already built quite a lot of flexibilities. I will just, remind, that we have the accelerated review procedure for the evaluation of medicines. We have marketing authorization, conditional marketing authorization, and authorization under exceptional circumstances with less evidence for unmet medical needs. Compassionate use, to make medicines available to patients even at earlier stage of development. However, even if that it is in place, we recognize in the Commission that, there is a lot, the perception exists that, or probably reality, I would say, that the drug development is complex and it is expensive, and, the patient access to innovative treatments, it is perceived as slow. So, what needs to be done? This is the question that came to, to the minds of the Commission, seeing all the developments around us. We have the adaptive licensing initiative from EMA, the EMA pilot project, which was initiated in March this year. We listen here about MAPS, it is the new development, and we also have international activities, initiatives. We have the US breakthrough designation, and we have in the EU initiative, national initiative in some of our member states. We heard this morning from the early access to medicine schemes in the UK, initiatives in France and other member states. So, in the Commission, we felt that, that there is a need to address the question because, we saw that adaptive licensing, it is built within the existing regulatory framework. However, we have to recognize that it is a new pathway that, creates also, new mechanisms, that, for example, there is a lot of reliance on real-world data. There is reliance, more reliance on stakeholder involvement, patient, healthcare professionals. And all this is good, but in the Commission we felt like it is time early in this phase to address the question, yes, but does this fit into the current regulatory system? And we do not mean only by rules and provisions in the legislation, but also policy and principle issues. So EMA will address through the pilot project scientific and technical issues, so to make the concept implementable. But, we need to address these legal and policy questions with the 28 member states. And we felt like the earlier we do that, the earlier, we bring questions, the best the system can absorb them and actually, facilitate, the implementation of the adaptive licensing as it comes. So we started a reflection process in the Pharmaceutical Committee with the member states. Actually, we put some questions to the member states, which I would summarize in, a couple of issues. Basically, is our regulatory system works as was intended to, with the current flexibilities, and if not, why not? Then, to actually examine the merits and the weaknesses, if you would like, of the adaptive licensing approach, and how this would fit, within our system, and if there are any other actions that they would be there to improve the system. So this questionnaire we ran over the summer, and we got, actually replies from 13 member states. The general comments, it was quite positive, that member states felt that, there is room for improvement, with regard to patient access to medicines. And they found the pilot project, they welcome it as an interesting concept that needs to be tested for its potential to actually both boost innovation, and provide better and faster access of medicines to patients. However, there are challenges and concerns which were also identified by the member states. There is a long list, but I will just bring you, some of them, and which I try to put together per area, I would say. The first one, it is the inclusion. What type of medicines will be addressed? There is the intention to be for medicines that they bring a substantial advantage to patients in areas of serious unmet medical need. But however, member states felt that, we need criteria actually that they're clear from the beginning in this exercise. Also, there has been comments that, we need a consistent regulatory practice under adaptive licensing, because this is very important in order to ensure the trust of the applicants. With regard to health technology assessment and pricing and reimbursement, we got a lot of, very interesting comments that, you heard this morning, many of those. While it was recognized that there is a lot of EU initiatives that they are going into more coordination, working together, like the UNETHA network, the SEED consortium, the parallel scientific advice. However, member states, they do not, forget to remind us that these are national competencies. So the adaptive licensing, it is also very much reliant on post-authorization. It is the real-world data. So there were questions about the quality, about retrieving this data for confirmation reasons, but one aspect that it was also brought to our attention by member states is that, would this add complexity and burden the existing regulatory system? This is something that, we have to actually consider. And the examples, of course, it was in terms, of the use of the registries, the controlled prescription, etc. So the other impact, it was more financial. What that would be the impact for the resources for the national competent authorities and responsibility into this exercise. The two-step authorization, starting from the restricted patient population and then broadened to a bigger patient population, created some questions with regard to the ethics and the feasibility of confirmatory clinical trials. How do you continue whilst the product is actually authorized for a small group of patients? Reliance on stakeholders, it is a very important element and very positive of adaptive licensing. However, how can you ensure the engagement, real engagement? I've heard this morning, of patients saying, about their role, and, we are looking into how you can really engage patient into this exercise in a way that it works. It is adaptive licensing, it is a lot, actually, based on prescribing practice. How can, control this in an effective way? How cannot, go into the direction, of increasing off-label use, which is uncontrolled. Also, with regard to regulatory results, starting from the smaller population, what would happen, if these do not confirm the benefit risk? What would that be the impact for the trust to the system from patients and healthcare professionals? And then with regard to the feasibility, we heard earlier as well, how our system, it is adapted to react quickly in cases we have evidence that it doesn't work, and, going to immediate regulatory measures, including withdrawals. And then last but not least, questions about the data exclusivity, and when this starts in the concept of adaptive licensing. So we think that there is a lot of merit in all these issues that they were coming from the member states, and we think that actually these questions, they are not there to scare the whole exercise. The opposite. It is very early. We think that this is a normal a normal thing that all these issues are raised in the beginning, and we think that a lot will be addressed by the EMA pilot project. So there will be an interaction between the idea. It is to interact with EMA through the pilot project and with the Pharmaceutical Committee committee so that, one inform the other about, their results on one side and concerns from the other, so that, we find solution early enough to make the concept work. So the next step, it will be, to continue discussions with the member state. The next meeting will be tomorrow in Brussels in the Pharmaceutical Committee, where we will mainly discuss the results of this consultation, and then probably discuss next steps on, as I said before, to monitor a bit the developments in adaptive licensing, but also think, is there anything else that we can improve as well? Thank you.